And the answer to that is at the end of the week. So I'm going to share out a recap of all of the sessions we had this week, as well as recordings of all the sessions in case people missed or, you know, weren't able to attend. So, welcome to our session about the North Florida Beaches Indicators Project. I want to take a second to recognize the Beaches Community Fund and the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida for supporting this project, as well as our very important collaborators, the Beaches Action Collaborative, that helped us build the dashboard that you're going to see today. So, my name is Allison Owenby. I am the Vice President of Data Research and Strategic Initiatives at the Nonprofit Center. So, I have the pleasure of owning all of our data work, all of our research, as well as um, our new project, which is going to be operationalizing our shared services model. So we've gone through board approval for that project. We have built a committee, a council of individuals in the community that are advising us as we build out this strategic project. And I'm excited to be able to work on that this year beyond the amazing Catalyst data work that you see today. So I'd love for everybody to just quickly introduce themselves so we know who's on the call. I know a lot of you all know each other, but let's go ahead and start that. So I'll just call on you and you can say your name and the organization you represent or why you're here today. So we'll start with Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie Brotman, and I'm a member of the Beaches Community Fund.
Okay, thank you. And Ellen?
Hi, I'm Ellen Glasser. Hi, everybody. I know most of you. I uh, am with the Beaches Homeless Coalition, and we are in the midst of a cold wave. So we've been doing back to back to back to back to back cold night shelters, and did the point in time count last night.
Ellen did share she woke up to specifically attend this meeting, so we want to recognize her commitment for that. Thank you, Ellen. Okay, David.
David Loeb. I'm a member of the Beaches Community Fund, BEAM, and a longtime supporter of the Nonprofit Center.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And Glenwood?
Glenwood Charles with Baptist Health, Community Health and Wellbeing.
Thank you. And Janet?
Hello, I'm the planning manager with ElderSource, the area agency on aging.
So nice to see you, Janet. And Addie?
Hi, I'm Addie Nobels with Baptist Beaches Community Relations.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I am gonna just quickly, I'm gonna skip this slide. I think most of you have attended a session in the past. Maybe Ellen is the only one, but I'm pretty sure she's familiar with the nonprofit sec center's work. I'll talk. So the nonprofit center started our data work in 2022 after the closure of JCCI, and we've been really focused on building a regional product for Northeast Florida called Catalyst. And what it does is it serves really as a trusted data source for local, state, and national data, where nonprofits in our community and any community member can find information about our community. So we took a couple of years to build Catalyst, but in parallel, we've built data projects for specific geographies. Partnering with city council members, Council Member Amero, Carico, Peluso, and Gaffney, and a few others. We've built custom views for their city council district for them to see kind of what's really going on, how many people live there, and things like that. We've built another custom view for Clay County in partnership with the Reinhold Foundation that talks about data and strengths and opportunities for Clay, as well as what we're here to talk about today, which is the North Florida Beaches Project. So when we talk about the beach, one of the first things people typically ask is, what do you mean when you say beach? And so this is the map that we leverage when we talk about the beach, and the data that you'll see today encompasses this footprint. So we have South Ponte Vedra up to Mayport, and then just a little bit over the intercoastal. The specific zip codes that you see listed up here are included in that geographic footprint. Now, the North Florida Beaches Indicators project is built as a centralized data source for, again, those nonprofit. It can be used by government and business, volunteers, donors, and the community at large. And the data is broken up into 6 different categories. The first one is overview of the beach, which kind of just gives an overview of population, how many households there are, the amount of green space that's available, housing and homelessness, which is what we're here to talk about today, economic vitality, which is more about income, jobs, where people work, how they get around in the community. Our food insecurity discussion happened yesterday, where we talked about the percentage of individuals who are food insecure, the cost of a meal at the beach and in our community, things like that. We also had a session Tuesday focused on education, where we talked about preschool enrollment, educational outcomes, and the educational attainment of folks that live at the beach, as well as tomorrow's session will be physical health, mental health, and health care. So we're going to pivot over to our beaches dashboard right now. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to pull that up so we can take a look at it together. So the intention of the session is to be kind of a live demo of the data that you'll see. Feel free to come off mute at any time, share a reaction to the data. I'm going to pause at certain points to ask for your feedback, but this should really just be an informal conversation. So if you have a thought, feel free to put it in the chat or just come off mute and share it with me. I'm very informal, and I really, truly 100% believe that this product can only get better with your feedback. So, to get to the Beaches dashboard, you can navigate there in a few different ways. Again, you can visit the Nonprofit Center website and click on our Catalyst dashboard. That'll take you to our landing page. Our Catalyst project has its own website that's dedicated to just data overall and data storytelling. Um, if you go over to the data section, we have an index here that lists all of our Catalyst data points, which is our regional project, as well as each of the dashboards that were built around our Catalyst model. We have a link to our Clay County dashboard, as well as the beaches that we're going to talk about today. You can also navigate here from the back website, so the Beaches Action Collaborative, which is a group of individuals that come together each month at the beach. They have representatives from the nonprofit sector, the corporate sector, and the religious sector that come together to not only network, share stories, but also build networks of collaboration and reduce duplication of services out at the beach. If you come to the collaborative website, you can click here, right here, to get to the North Florida Beaches dashboard. If you've never attended a back session, I would recommend that you do. All their meetings are located down here, the next one being February 17th. But let's go over. Uh-oh, hold on. I lost my website. There we go. All right, we're going to go over to housing and homelessness in a second, but this is our landing page of the Beaches dashboard. It gives you an overview of the data that you're going to see, which we've already covered. It has some recognition for the Beaches Community Fund and the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida, as well as Beaches Action Collaborative. So if we go over to housing and homelessness, housing and homelessness is divided into a couple of different data categories. So we have information on cost burden households, owning a home, renting a home, and unhoused populations at the beach. So when we talk about, I'm going to go through first cost burden household. So in here we have a little bit of information that kind of talks a little bit about what cost burden is. So all people deserve to live in a safe and quality home, the community to support what they need to thrive. Maintaining that home takes time and money, And with rising rent and other things like that, it can be challenging. So we're going to talk a little bit about cost burden at the beach. So the beach is made up of about 47,000 households, meaning a housing family or individual that lives in a place. And of those households, 15,000 of them are cost burden. So what does cost burden mean? That means they spend more than 30% of their monthly income on rent. And what does that mean? Rent can be defined as what you actually pay for rent, but it also includes utilities and other rent-like expenses. And so when we think about that, we can see here that, at in a median sense, people at the beach pay about 18.6% of ownership costs as a percentage of income. So that's when you own your home, you're paying about 19% of your income towards owning that home. But when you rent, you're paying that higher amount, about 30% of your income towards rent. And so that's a really interesting uh, variation. And we'll see some more of that as we dig deeper into this data. That that live at the beach, surprisingly, who own homes are spending less of their income to own those homes than people who are renting.
Allison, this is gross income or net income?
Gross,
Okay.
right here. Gross rent.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, gross rent. It should be gross income as well.
Gross income. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
hmm And so when we look at the people who are cost burdened, right, who are in a household at the beach, we can see that there's just a little bit more renters than there are homeowners. So of those the renters, people who are cost burdened, there's about 7,000 of them and about 7,500 owners. So almost the same amount. And we can just see here how that has changed over time. So it's not, there's not a significant increase that we see with these numbers, but this data also doesn't reflect some of the very, very recent drastic increases in rent and home ownership costs that we've seen occur within our communities. And so we expect some of that data to be included in the more recent updates that will be deployed to our dashboard over the next few weeks when this data is updated by the census. Any questions or reactions to that so far? All right, I'm going to keep going then. So let's talk a little bit more about renter affordability, right? So this is going to break down a little bit further what we've already talked about. So again, we've got about 47,000 occupied housing units at the beach, and of those, about 15,000 are renter occupied housing units. Now, of those 15,000, there are about 31,000 people that live in those occupied housing units. So we're just taking a little data walk here and breaking it down for you, right? And of the people who live in those housing units, their median income is about $74,000. I'm going to take a jump down here and look at homeowner affordability really quick, just so we can compare the two, right? So that's that same total housing units we saw in the previous section. Now, there are 79,000 people that are living in those owner-occupied housing units and 32,000 owner-occupied housing units. So we've got 32,000 owner-occupied housing units and about 31,000 renter-occupied housing units, which is, a pretty similar number. But there are fewer, oh, I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. 15,000 units and 31,000 people. So 15,000 units, 31,000 people. And then down here, uh, there are 79,000 owner-occupied units. Hold on, I'm getting confused. 79,000 people, 32,000 units. So many more homeowners necessarily than renters. Okay, let's go back up here before I stop confusing you. When we look at monthly home rent here, we're looking at how much dollars people are spending on their rent, right? So you can see there are not that many people that are spending low cost for rent, but there are a lot of people who are spending higher dollar amounts for rent. So 33% and 28% of renters are spending between $1,500 and $2,000 or more on rent. And then this graph breaks down rental costs as a percentage of income. And I think this is really interesting. Um, and we'll go back down to the housing section as well, just to kind of compare the two. So when we think about of total renter occupied housing units, what are people paying? There are very few people that are paying less than 10% of their income, but there are a lot of folks who are paying 50% or more of their income on rent, right? And how this changes. Now let's look at that same kind of graph for ownership costs. So this is kind of mirroring what I was trying to share with you earlier, and I think I got too confused, but this is showing that when we look at ownership costs as a percentage of income, there are lots of folks at the beach who are paying less than 10, 15, under 15% of their income to own their home. And why is that? We could make a lot of assumptions about why that is, whether it's generational wealth or, just the very high area median income that exists at the beach. But I think it's really interesting to look at these numbers and compare the two when we look at owners versus renters.
Hey,
Anyway,
Allison. Allison,
yes, ma'am.
this is probably a random thought, but I own my house, but
Mm-hmm.
I have expenses with my property taxes. I mean, I don't know if you roll that into really what the costs are of owning a home because, you know, it's a big hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
I guess that's a no.
I believe taxes should be included
Yeah,
in.
they should be.
They should be or they are.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
good. All right, great.
Yeah,
But I'll look that up right now. But then
yeah,
I had a question too.
sure.
Do you have an age breakdown of renters versus homeowners?
That's not included here, but it's
Okay.
something that I was looking to actually add, Glenwood, as I was reviewing this before our session today. So, the next section we're going to talk about is, hold on, renter households. And so this kind of gives you a view of where renter households are located out at the beach. The next one down here looks at renter households overlaid with people of color. And the next graph I wanted to add was age. I didn't have enough time to do that before this session started, just because it's not a question that's come up in our past sessions, but it's this question I was curious about as I was reviewing the data.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take
I
that as a
would
takeaway.
I would agree with that. It would be very helpful for my purposes. Of course, working with the aging population, disabled population is um, to see where that, 60 and over or whatever age you choose to use.
Hmm.
But most of our things are 60 and over. It would be very good to see that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, let's go rogue. Let's see if we can do it right now. Let's see if we can do that real quick. Let's see. All right, you guys are seeing my, can you see this? What's on my screen right now?
On CRM?
Barely.
All right, let's
Uh,
see. That was my check-in sheet.
Okay.
I have to open it in a different browser to be able to edit it. So let's see here. So let's go, we're going to go to housing and homelessness. And maybe this is not exciting to you, but let's just see if we can do it. Renter households. We're going to go edit, and I'm going to go right over here. And I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to go into the data. And here we're going to edit it. So we want to keep the percentage of renter occupied housing units, but we want to change, instead of percent people of color, we're going to say age percent. Percent age 25 to 44. So no, we're gonna say maybe number of uh age. Let's see. Age. Let's see. Age
Age
totals.
grouping
Yes, here we go. No, that's by gender. We'll go age with a disability. We could try that one. Let's see
or
what the
age grouping, maybe? Would
mm-hmm. This will look at renter households by over 65 without a disability. Let's change that to with a disability. Um, let's see. Age. Okay. Age. Let's add this one. 65 and older household. Okay, there you go. That's good. Let's pull that in. So this is now a graph that overlays renter households by, not by people of color. That's I need to edit the title, but it's going to show you people who are age 65, households with people age 65 and older. So let's take a look at that. What does that look like now? So the darker blue are going to be the places where that is overlapping. So we can see this census tract has 30% of a renter occupied housing units and 1,500 people who are age 65 and older in a household. So you can see how kind of that changes over time and by geography. Okay, well, that was cool. I'm glad I could do it.
Allison, while you're getting back, a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it looks like about 2 to 1 in rental units,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more than that if you own your home. When you
Mm-hmm.
list median income,
Mm-hmm.
is that per household or per person?
Median income is by household.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let me pull back up my other map. All right. I don't know if you guys found that helpful, but it's really, that was really a demonstration of um, because we have the data available to us, we can pull a lot of different views pretty easily, right? And so really for me, getting your feedback about that's what you would like to see is extremely helpful because I can do a lot of stuff, right? I can create time graphs over time. I can geolocate different data points. I can overlay two data points over each other to see how it overlaps in different systems. I can even create correlational analyses, right? So is in our community. One of the data points that was pretty cool is we were able to tie life expectancy to income rates in our community in Northeast Florida. And so the more money you make, the longer you live in Northeast Florida, and the less money you make, the shorter amount of time that you live. And so that's a general statement that people just say that, yeah, oh, yeah, when you make more money, you live longer. But we were able to statistically prove that that is true for Northeast Florida, which I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let me go back over here. So we're going to share my screen. All right, let's refresh this because it should have our new graph we just added. So renter households. Again, this is our rental household units. This is where we're overlapping renter households with people of color. So how does that data overlap? As well as now our renter households and people age 65 plus. And Janet, I might be able to find 60 plus. It just may take me a little bit longer than what I can do in this moment.
That's fine. I'll take either at this point.
Okay, cool. And if I can help you, Janet, with anything specifically that you guys may need to tell your story and create some custom graphics for you based on your footprint, let me know. Just let me know. All right. All right. And then this is just the number of renter occupied housing units over time and how that's projected to grow and change at the beach. Now we're going to talk a little bit about evictions. So our eviction filing rate for the beach is about 4.5%. And the actual eviction rate is a little bit lower at about 2.8%. And this map kind of shows where evictions are happening at the beach overlaid with people of color. And so you see there's some places that don't have a ton of data, but there are others that do. So this census tract right here is showing 40% people of color with a 5% eviction rate. This one over here is showing 53% people of color with 7.8% eviction rate. 40% and 1, 8% and 1. Now I want to just pivot over to owning a home. And we've already reviewed some of this data. So again, we have about 54,000 total units, housing units. The population in owner-occupied housing units is about 80,000 and 32,000 are owner-occupied of those units. So 54, 32 over 54. The median income for a homeowner at the beach is $131,000. Again, so that's the median income for a renter was 74,000 about. So this is pretty significantly higher. And the median monthly selected ownership cost as a percent of income, again, is about 18%, 19%. When you look at owner-occupied home value at the beach, there's some obviously the most amount of homes are between 500,000 and $1 million. There's a significant amount that are a million or more, and then a few that fall into that 3,000 to 400,000 with, significantly less in a more affordable housing cost bucket. And again, these numbers don't reflect the, really significant increase that we've seen over the past couple of years in those home prices. So this is going to be probably even more homes that fall into these top three categories, if not top two.
I have one question. It's back above where you went before. I saw under the eviction data
Mm-hmm.
that it said eviction lab 2016. So
Mm-hmm.
is that where that data is pulling from, that far back?
Yes, the eviction labs posts eviction level data every 10 years. So we expect that data to be updated this year with new eviction data. For Jacksonville, however, overall, Eviction Labs has near current data available for evictions, but it's only at the county level and it's not necessarily at a census tract level. But if you're looking for more recent data around evictions, that is available and it's easy, really easy to download from their website. I've
Okay,
helped,
I'll get them.
yeah, I've helped legal aid Janet do some analysis around evictions and kind of overlaying that with crime rates. So that was really cool. We were able to show a pretty significant correlation between vacant properties and evictions, as well as crime and evictions.
Does it have anything on like age of the person or age groupings?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't looked at it that in through that
Okay,
lens.
okay, I'll look.
Yeah, I'll send you the link after this.
Okay.
Okay, we did this. We talked about this already. Um, some individuals think it's interesting to look at how new is their community, right? So this graph is attempting to show that through median year the owner moved into their home and how that varies and changes at the beach. David, based on your feedback, I've tried to change most of these graphs to have more color variation, but this one I missed before this
No
session, so
worries. And
I'm gonna go back and change it though. So let's look. Let's kind of zoom in here. We'll see what's happening. So over here we have probably median year moved in as 2006. The range here is going to be 2002 to 2016 with the darker blue color. So let's see where that darker blue color is. It's up here for 2014. Over here, this doesn't surprise me because there's so much new developments happening over in this area of 2016, 2014. And this is a more established part of the beach. Let's zoom in and see where that is. Right in Neptune Beach, right there. So that's probably, at least by this, the oldest median year that the owner has moved in. All right, let's talk about homeowner households. And again, this is similar to the last section, right, where we're looking at the population in owner occupied housing units. So where are homeowners, the majority of homeowners located out at the beach? We can see how that varies by geography, with the smallest amount being about 259. You can see these are lighter numbers over here, up to about 7,000, which this is a huge swath, so that makes sense to me, but this also seems like quite a concentrated portion of the map. And just also showing how the number of owner-occupied housing units has changed over time. So 28,000 to about 32, and then projected to that for that to continue to increase to about 36,000. Oh, this is owner-occupied housing units versus renter, so we can see the difference.
Is there anything like that could show over that age 60 or 65?
Janet, we're gonna have a talk about how we can help you tell your story with data. We're gonna set up a one-on-one. So just
All
let's keep,
right, that'll be good.
yeah. Well,
Okay, I will
I'm
keep asking then. We
I
can do
I'm
that
I'm gonna
because
make you your own dashboard that's gonna
awesome.
have all the stuff on it. That's part of my goal this year is to work with our members to build them custom views, right?
Hmm.
That can tell their story. We have all this data available. Like, how can we leverage it to help organizations in our community? It only takes me if you know what data you want, it can take me not a ton of time to build you something. So
I
that's
will
my
get
goal.
that. I will work that out then because I need that in the next couple of months. So that would be good.
Oh.
Janet, what's your geographic area?
I'm sorry. Were you asking me?
Yes, I was. Your
Um,
geographic area?
we cover 7 counties in Northeast Florida.
Okay,
So it's Baker, Clay,
okay,
Duval, Flagler, Nassau, St. John's, and Volusia.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is looking at um within the beach, what by race, what percent of that population are homeowners, right? So if we look at the total, the percentage of American Indian and Alaskan householders, 67% of that population are homeowners, right? 70% of white residents are homeowners. 63% are Asian, 41% Hispanic, and 51% Black. So this is really looking at of the total population of a race at the beach, what percentage of that population are homeowners? And you can just, this just kind of gives you the data about how that varies by race. All right. Our last section here is homelessness, um, and unhoused populations. The reason that there are asterisks around these data points is that because they're aggregated at the county level. Through the homeless point in time count that's published through HUD, we are not able to show data at a lower geography than at the county level. But there's still really some good information here that I want to share with you. So when we think about the homeless population in our community based on the point in time count that took place last night and Ellen attended, but also happens every single year. There are 1,300 individuals in Duval County and 442 in St. John's. So you can see the difference between the two here. When we think about homeless people in families, during that count, there were 239 in Duval versus 80 in St. John's. And then homeless veterans was 122 versus 16. And then unaccompanied homeless youth was 36 versus 0. Now, this graph here shows you the homeless population by race. This is a graph just for Duval County, not St. John's. So we can see here of all of the folks that were counted who are homeless, 771, or about 60% were Black. 36, almost 37%, or 478 were white. 42 were multiple races, 7 were Asian, and 1 was Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. If you guys find value in it, I can add a similar graph for St. Johns County. Um, Ellen, any reactions there based on what you guys experienced last night?
Yes, and that's why I unmuted myself.
Yes, go.
Unhoused. Those are people who do not have a bed to sleep in. It does not include people who are in a shelter, perhaps, or couch surfing or whatever. So, I mean, while all the data has been wonderful, the fact that it is aggregated at the county level doesn't really help the North Florida Beaches Indicators Project.
Hmm.
So, so I'm wondering how I can help you to, sort of zoom in on this. So yeah, just anecdotally, it's not very helpful for us to use to get resources when
Right.
it's looked at on at the county level. And I know that what we tried yesterday with the point in time, we actually held an event overnight with
Hmm.
mats, not beds, so they could be considered unhoused, which is a weird distinction. Um, and we got double the number that were in last year's point in time count. So, I guess my point is that we have got some work to do to drill
Hmm.
down into this. There's my kitty cat. And the other thing is that we have reached out to DCPS because that definition also can be tested with the student figures that you have. We
Hmm.
have organizations who are working with students who will tell, and actually DCPS will tell you they have, like 3,000 students, not 100 plus, but
Hmm.
3,000 students who are stressed in terms of housing. So
Hmm.
there is, in my opinion, a big disconnect. And I know from our standpoint with the Beaches Homeless Coalition, we know the data is really critical to
Hmm.
resources and telling the story. So, I mean, you had all those slides for, people in housing, and are these the only ones for the homeless?
Yes, and the challenge is, right, is that Changing Homelessness gathers all of this data, right, for the individuals and organizations that are serving homeless people in
Right.
our community. But the data that they collect is not publicly available, right? The data that they collect is sent to HUD and HUD is able to analyze it, but it is not publicly available for us to leverage for this purpose. And so we've attempted to work with change requests from Changing Homelessness, the data that could drill down to this level. We had conversations with Tracy as well. And my understanding is that this point in time count will be different and it will have data available at the zip code level that we can then aggregate into this view to create a custom view for the beach. That has not been available in the past. I think the reason for that is because the majority of the data that they collect is done by those COCs,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the baseline of the data that's published is aggregated at that COC level. We haven't been able to drill down farther yet,
Well,
but
we are working with Changing Homelessness, and I know they are trying, but
mhm.
in the interim, we have like a big disconnect.
Agreed. I
And we have
100% agree.
so, and then the other thing is that they're not real, neither our social service agency at the beach, Mission House, nor Changing Homelessness have a focus on the student population that I'm telling you about.
Hmm.
And so, uh, I mean, it is what it is. So,
Hmm.
we have numbers for the shelters that we run, which are all volunteer and in churches.
Hmm.
I mean, but
Hmm.
we can give you that data. I mean, we had, 107 people last night.
Hmm.
So I'm just saying, can you use
Yeah.
our data or is it not good enough?
I wouldn't say it's not good enough. I would need to understand, in order to leverage it, right? I would need to understand more details about how it's collected, right? How we would build it into our system, right? Are you going to give me a year's worth of data so that I could create something that shows it annually? Is it something that we need to update monthly? We would need to gather a data sharing agreement and really understand, is there any information security risks with you sharing it with me?
Yeah.
Maybe there isn't, maybe there isn't, right? But these are just, you can't just give me your data, right? I would
Yeah.
love to be able to take it and put it up here, but it is a deeper conversation that we need to have in order to make it
Yeah,
work.
you're not going to like our data. I mean, it's just a list of names. I mean, there's
Right.
no security ID checks, nothing. So anyway, I just trying to, just sort of noodle this and see, just let you know that
Absolutely. No, I
we're
appreciate it.
so I mean, so we were successful last night anyway in
Hmm.
doubling the number from the year that you have on file.
Sure.
And that will be actually part of the record. So we're really, really happy about that.
I'm
Um,
happy about it too.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
so yeah, we're working together on it. So I'm
Awesome.
just gonna give that my little spiel, whenever I get a chance.
Please do. Absolutely. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. David, go ahead.
Ellen, thank you for your work with all of this. I have a couple questions. One is, um, do we, Allison or you,
Hmm.
Ellen, have any data on trends? Like what it was like 5 years ago, 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
And the other question is,
Hmm.
to kind of help understand the validity of any comparison would be, Ellen, if this year all of a sudden you put mats out for everybody to come in, and it was really cold, right? So that's kind of a little bit confounding. If it were, a nice night, people might not have come in. Had they not had mats, they might not have come in. So it sounds like the data you have from your outreach is probably more accurate than what there was before in terms of not significantly undercounting um, the homeless population. But it's I think part of the message too is, we're worried at the beaches about homelessness. Well, is it going up? That trend is
Hmm.
important, I think, for funders.
Well, that's
Hmm.
all true. And I'm going to say, our data is qualitative. It's not so much quantitative. And I mean, we had a lot of churches 5 years ago, well, 6 or 7 years ago, doing these events. And then the pandemic happened. And then, of course, it stopped. So the trend line was totally, it totally nosedived. But it wasn't because there are no people out there. It's just there was no shelter.
Yep. No,
And
no.
then added to that is the criminalization of sleeping in public.
Hmm.
So, they have been bulldozing people's encampments and arresting people at a lot higher rate. So they're hiding better. So, we have some challenges, but I do think that, we can do better with what we have. And I mean, I have a trend line of what we've done in the last 3 years in terms of the numbers at each event. But it is a crapshoot because if the weather's nice, they're not going to come and want to you know, sleep in somebody else's
Hmm.
space. I mean, that's not something they enjoy. So it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your work.
well, that's why I left the beam board, David.
I heard there was another reason, but anyway, wherever you feel like you have the most influence, we need you.
Thank
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Tracy, of course, if he's at these meetings, he's a big driver in this. So, okay.
Tracy has attended and advised the whole creation of this dashboard. And believe me, Ellen, the conversations that Tracy and I had around this are the exact same conversations that you and I are having today. Tracy was very frustrated with the fact that we couldn't get data that's publicly available and published by a reliable source that could tell the story of the beach because it's so important to him. And we went around and around with different bodies, just ourselves looking on the HUD website, trying to find something that could fill this gap. But I will tell you, after exhaustive research, it just isn't available in the way that we need to be able to use to leverage and build this project right here. So it is something that we're actively pursuing, though. And again, I've been told that the new point in time count will be able to be geolocated by zip code. And so we're hopeful that that should change in the future.
Oh, I think that will happen because we met with them to identify the hot spots and where they were. But I will say, again, if there's room for a qualitative component to this,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of qualitative information on trends. I mean, maybe 10 years ago there were 30 people at these shelters and now there
Mm-hmm.
are 100. So,
Yes.
with the laws
Yes.
changing, people are moving, they're moving
Mm-hmm.
to places. So, I mean, there's no question in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The data may not tell the story, but it's probably tripled in the last 10 years.
Yes. I took that note. So let's add in some trend line data around homelessness. Absolutely, we can do that. No problem.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, and then this tells you a little bit about homeless veterans in our community as a grouping, as well as chronically homeless individuals and homeless by shelter status. So who's in shelters and who's considered unsheltered. And that is all I have for you today. Any other thoughts as we kind of close out this session? Is there anything you wish you saw that you don't see on here?
I'm just going to go back to homelessness again. I tell you, some of the common denominators that they all share
Mm-hmm.
are medical treatment. Um, they're all getting treated for something,
Sure.
and transportation. They are almost all using JTA.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be great if JTA could be a partner. I don't know if they are or not,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean,
Yeah.
they go back and forth from the beaches to, whatever hospital or job or whatever, and that
Mm.
is that is how they are able to get around.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
We have some data on here that talks about commute and transportation, right? These measures of commute are more around getting to and from work, whereas this over here measures vehicle access. So there's not necessarily a data point on here that talks about bus routes. I think that's more of what you're talking about.
Yes.
And there's not really a clear measure of just utilization of public transportation versus utilization of it to commute to and from work. So I think that's a fair push item to include more details about just public transportation utilization in general versus for commuting purposes. I'm taking that down.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Anytime. Okay, so let me show you guys our little QR code where you can give us some feedback. I also want to just briefly mention we have some other upcoming events. On January 30th, which is tomorrow, we're going to have a Bridging the Sector conversation, which talks about different advocacy issues throughout our community. We've got a session called our Membership Corner. So every month we're having a new session where we're highlighting benefits of membership at the nonprofit center. The first session is going to focus on um, our board bank, which is where we're allowing nonprofits to post opportunities to join their boards of directors, as well as allowing leaders in the community to create profiles. Um, and connect with nonprofits directly. We have our Catalyst office hours. So that's on February 11th from 12 to 1. So, Ellen, that would be a great time if you want to jump on with me one on one. We can talk about older adult data points and create something for you specifically. These are monthly sessions, kind of just an open session for anyone to jump on and talk about data. I can help you build something during that time, or we could just have a conversation about what best data points that you could use for a proposal or any number of other items. On February 13th, we have our all member gathering, which is every year around Valentine's Day. We'd love for all of you to attend if you would like to. And we're going to have this year's theme is around our family reunion. So we're getting our nonprofit family back together. We're going to have some fun games, as well as revealing some of the new pillars of our strategic plan during that session. So if you're able to come, we would love to have you, as well as our civic action series. So we have a new series starting this year around advocacy and communication, whether that be internally, externally, or to elected officials. So these different sessions will talk a lot about how nonprofits should be civically engaged, how they can advocate what's legal, what's illegal, and just guidance around those type of topics. And then this is our survey here. So tell me what you thought of today's session. And again, I'll be sharing out all the recordings as well as kind of a summary feedback via email tomorrow after our last session concludes. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Great job, Allison.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
Anytime. Have a great day, you guys.